In this video, I'm going to be reviewing a compact, featherweight, under $100 Kodak point and shoot camera. Under $100, can it be any good? We're going to find out in this video. You're going to learn about it. You're going to see a lot of photo and video samples, and I'm going to tell you how to use it. In case you're new to photography, maybe you're just coming from your phone, I'm going to walk you step by step how to get going with the camera, give you tips on it, a real guide and manual in getting started with this camera if you're a beginner especially. Well, if you didn't get the C1 yet, maybe you're a little confused because you've noticed that Kodak has a lot of similar models. So why get the C1? Why not get this model or this model or this model? Well, first of all, I do have dedicated videos on each of these other models, the FZ55, 45, and the underwater model, the WPZ2. So feel free to check those out. It goes into a lot of details. If you're looking to go underwater or use your camera in the rain, then this is the model for you. You can definitely get it wet. You definitely can get it dusty. The C1 is not weatherproof or even weather resistant. You gotta keep it out of the water and out of the rain or else you risk damaging it. Now the FZ45 and the FZ55 are similar looking to the C1, but these cameras have optical zooms. The lens actually physically extends to bring you closer to your subjects, whereas the C1 relies on the less efficient digital zoom, gives it more of a digitized, grainy look, not as clear as a true optical zoom. It's mainly what they call a fixed lens camera, sort of one field of view or one focal length. It's a 26mm wide-angle lens. Now just to give you an idea, on most phones, the main wide-angle lens is around 23 or 24 millimeters. I'm not talking about the ultra-wide lens, you know, the ones that really gives you a wide view. But the standard lens on your phone, here's an example of an iPhone 17 Pro, the type of field of view you get. The iPhone is just a little wider in the main lens.
But realize in low light scenes like this, your phone will probably do better because there's more computational stuff going on with your phone. But the C1 has a built-in flash to help you in low light.
Now compared to the other cameras, the C1 sensor is 13 megapixels in resolution. The other ones are 16 megapixels. I wouldn't worry too much about that unless you're printing really large photos. You're not going to see the difference, especially
if you're just posting on social media or for casual viewing.
The other cameras either have an internal battery or they use AA batteries. With the C1, the battery is built in and you cannot access it. You charge it, but you can't take it out.
So this means if you're out for the day, maybe you forgot to charge your battery or your battery runs low, you are SOL. You know what that means? But the good news is you can use a portable USB charger to bring with you to charge the camera up through the attachment, but you can't use the camera while it's charging. But the one thing the C1 has that the others don't is the flip-up screen for selfies.
Okay, so you decided that the C1 is intriguing, you want to buy it, or maybe you already did, but how do you use this thing? I'm going to get you set up with this right now. I'm going to tell you what all the controls are, the buttons, what best settings to have. But do me a quick favor, please give me a like and do subscribe. It really does help the channel, help me produce videos like this to help you. So the camera is very light, which is good, but part of the reason it's light is it's made a lot of plastic and it does feel kind of chintzy. It doesn't have a real premium feel. So that's the negative, but it is what it is. There is no grip either. So when you hold it, you sort of have no real place to keep your fingers in place. So just be careful about that. It can be a little slippery.
Along the side of the camera is an attachment for a wrist strap, and it does come with a wrist strap, which I recommend you do use. The lens is also exposed. There's no lens cap that it comes with, so it's very tempting to throw this in your pocket or in your bag, but just be sure it's protected. I recommend using a little neoprene case like this and then put that in your bag for extra protection. Now this is the charging port on the side of the camera. The first thing you're going to want to do when you get it is to charge it. I recommend using the cable that it came with. It will say charging, but after a few seconds, that sign will go off. Don't worry, as long as that amber light stays on, means the camera is charging. And by the way, instead of plugging it into the wall, you could also plug it into your computer or laptop. Now let's take a tour along the camera body. That's the shutter button to take pictures. This is the power button. You press that once, it turns the camera on. To take a picture, you half press the shutter button. You'll see a green box which shows it's in focus, then press all the way down, and voila, you took your picture. Now you're going to need to buy a micro SD card. That's where your pictures are stored. That's this little tiny thing here. A lot of cameras use full-size cards. Make sure you get a micro SD card and make sure it's 32 gigabytes or less. And it just pops right into the bottom like this. Remember, don't get more than 32 gigabytes. And don't worry, like it shows you, 4,799 more pictures can be taken just on a 32 gigabyte card, so capacity is not a problem. But I will tell you about a problem with these cards. You see that little piece of tape? You may have noticed it in other shots on the lower left. I was carrying the camera, I did a nice shoot. You know, it's not a grip here. And it fell, okay? It fell from my hands, yes.
Our lives are in your hands and you have butterfingers?
The real nightmare part is that since there's no door protecting that mini SD card, is sort of exposed at the bottom, so when the camera fell out of my hands, I didn't have a wrist strap on. The card popped out upon impact of hitting the ground, and the worst possible place for it to fall was on this gravel floor of this parking lot. I had taken some nice shots. I went on my hands and knees looking for this thing with my flashlight. People must have thought I was looking for a contact lens. I never found it. So lesson learned, from here on in, I take a piece of Scotch tape, or if you want, a piece of black tape so it's less obvious, and cover that door. So in case you drop this camera, I don't want you to have the same frustration I had. Now, when you get a little micro SD card, it usually comes with an adapter, so you could pop that adapter into your SD card reader in your computer. But some SD card readers, you can just pop the little micro SD card in as well without an adapter. The other way to watch your photos back is to connect the camera to your computer, and it'll recognize the SD card in the camera, and you can watch your photos that way, and that's even a little easier. Now, the other thing I want to talk about at the bottom of the camera is the tripod attachment. That's that little hole. You can put your camera on a tripod. Especially a good idea if you're shooting like video, because the camera doesn't have any stabilization, so the video can be like a little shaky, like here. You got to really try to hold it steady. And that TW button at the back, that's the zoom. T is for telephoto, W is for wide angle. But again, remember, it's a digital zoom, so you can see it's kind of looks stepped when you zoom. It's not smooth, and the picture gets kind of jaggedy. So don't zoom in all the way. It really looks worse as the more you zoom in. You're much better off leaving it at the full wide angle, or just zoom in a little bit. The camera's not really great in that area. We'll talk about the other buttons on the back a little later on in the video. I just want to point out in the front, these little holes, in case you're wondering, that's a speaker. So when you're playing back your movies, the sound will come out of that. Now let's go into the menu. Press the menu button. It'll say normal right up top. That means you're just taking a regular normal photo like this. But by moving the wheel to the right, you'll go through different filters like black and white and retro. And people love these because it gives your photos an interesting sort of vintage, cool look. And I'm going to show you some examples in a second. Some of the filters like colored pencil and negative are, well, the partial color filters keeps everything black and white except like here it's red, and there's other colors too to isolate in a photo. Let me show you some examples of some filters. Retro gives it an old school look. Guess what this is? Yeah, black and white. Good guess. This is similar to black and white. It's called sepia, but with a little bit of a brown tint. Vivid is nice because it accents the colors in the picture. This is without vivid, and you can see vivid is one of the more popular filters because it gives it more pop. These filters here, wow, it's like out of a science fiction movie. Use these carefully. You don't want to overuse these. I don't know why you'd ever use it. Partial blue, you can see everything is black and white except the sliver of the sky. That's blue. So that was the top line of the menu. Those are the filters. Hitting the wheel down gets you to exposure metering. The only reason you'd want to change that from the first item on the left, which is average, is if you're in a strange lighting situation. Maybe you're shooting something really dark surrounded by bright objects. If you're not into photography, don't worry about this. Just leave it on the first one on the left, average. Now going down, this is the size of your images. 13 megapixel is the biggest image. It'll be 4160 by 3120 pixels in a 4:3 aspect ratio. If you like watching on a flat screen TV with a beer, you can use the 16 by 9, but it's a smaller file size in the end, and then it gets smaller and smaller. As far as I'm concerned, you might as well get the most out of your pictures and leave it at 13 megapixels.
Now, pressing the circular button down gets us to the next menu item, which is the shooting mode. This stands for single shot. When you press the shutter, it will take one picture. You'll normally have it on that unless you want a continuous or burst of shots. Maybe you're shooting birds or something fast action like a kid's sports game. This is continuous shot. When you press the shutter, as long as you keep it pressed, it'll keep shooting. And when you let go, it takes a couple of seconds to process it, and then you'll have to go through your pictures. You'll have a lot of pictures of a very similar thing, but normally leave it on single. Quality, leave it on best. It's a little bigger file size, but you're better off having the best quality image. It's about a 50% bigger file size. Date imprint, this is if you want the date and time on your pictures. This is without any date. Now this is with just the date. It's on the lower right. And the date and time will give you the date and time. Now just realize that is imprinted on the photo. You can't take it off, and if you want to crop the photo or change it, it's going to look strange. But old school cameras had that, so some people do like it. Now the next menu item going down is a quick review. That means right after you take your picture, if you leave this on, you'll see your picture for about a second, but it does slow you down a little bit, so it's up to you whether you want that on or off. Going down, get you to another menu. You press the set button, and this is just like some camera settings. The sound settings is just the sound of the beeps when you go through the menu items. So you just leave that on normal unless you don't want to hear any beeps. I would recommend keeping the beam on. That helps the focus. Set your language and do set your time, because when you look at your pictures back in your computer, you're going to want to be able to know when they were taken. Going down, you have power saver and LCD brightness. You may want to raise that because the screen, you can see, is very glary in the sun. It's really hard to see. There's no viewfinder in the camera either, so you're relying on that screen. So raising it up to 2, it's going to cost you a little battery life, but in the end, if you're in a sunny situation, it'll help. Now going down to the folder, give you some other camera options. Format means you're going to erase everything on your memory card. Do you really want to do that? Be very careful with that. I don't recommend doing that. These are the menu items you don't really have to worry about. The only one, firmware version, will tell you what firmware your camera's in. Sometimes you want to update your camera's firmware, so this gives you that info. Another important thing to learn about the camera is this mode switch. Everything that we saw in the menu, we were in the auto mode. There's different modes. Now, you can change the modes when you press the mode button. P stands for program auto mode. Now, when you go into the menu of program auto mode, it'll be very similar to the menu that we saw in auto mode, but it adds one thing. It adds this auto WB, which stands for white balance. Now that means it'll change the lighting depending on where you are. Sometimes you're in a weird lighting situation, or some people like to specifically dial in the light. So if you're outside in the sun or you're in a cloudy situation, you tell the camera. So maybe sometimes the sun is moving in and out of the clouds and the white balance will shift. This sort of gives you more control. Normally you're going to have it on auto, but maybe you're in like a gym with strange lighting, just so you know that you can adjust it. You could play with it, see what looks right in the screen. Now, being in that P mode gives you another option. When you press set, you'll see that EV and those numbers. You can raise or lower. That's the exposure value. Sometimes the camera gets a little fooled, maybe if you're at the beach or with snow and it doesn't expose right. If it looks wrong, you can change it by going up and down on that wheel. So it gives you a little flexibility in the P mode. The other thing you can do, auto ISO, that refers to the grain or gain in dark situations. It'll add more grain, but it would also make it brighter. Normally, you're not going to play with that. I always leave mine on auto. The camera usually does a good job with that. But that just tells you that the P mode, especially for EV or exposure value, is a big advantage of being in P mode. So let me show you some of the other modes. You press the mode button and hit right on the wheel. Landscape mode is the next mode after P, and you'll see a little mountain on the display showing you're in landscape mode. It just accents the greens a little more in your image, doesn't do much, and a lot of these modes don't do much. The next one is night landscape. Again, very similar. You're supposed to use a tripod for it. It tries to optimize for the night, and it shows a little moon and that little building to show you're in night landscape mode. I never use these, kind of gimmicky. Children mode just disables the flash, not to startle your child. Beach mode tries to accent the blue a little bit. You'll see a little palm tree there. The one mode which I find does do something is backlight portrait. Normally you want to shoot with the sun at you, but sometimes you can't. Here the sun is behind me. I just shot a regular picture, but this is in the backlight portrait mode. You see, it compensates and brightens everything up so you can see your face better, and moving closer to the camera helps even more. So that's one mode that you may want to consider using. Now, normally to shoot a movie with the camera, you hit the red button right under the W. But there is a dedicated movie mode, and what that will do is it'll allow you to change the exposure and also use the shutter button to record the movie. So you can start by hitting the shutter button and either hitting it again to stop or the red little button to stop as well. And just realize if you're in the movie mode, you can't take a photo. You'd have to get out of the movie mode. I recommend you going into the movie mode, hitting the menu, and you'll see it's a little different. There's a little more options in movie mode menu, and setting the quality of your movie. The best is this 1080p 60. That gives you the smoothest motion and the highest resolution. 1080p 30 is a little choppier the motion, and it goes down from there. So as you reduce your quality, you get more recording time. But as I showed you, even on a 32 gigabyte card, you can get well over 3 hours of 1080p 60 video, so I'd leave it on the highest quality setting. Now let's just look at the rear button. It says DISP, that's display. So every time you hit it, you'll see more information on screen. Those are like lines to help you frame. Some people like no clutter at all, but some people like maximum information on screen. It's up to you. I'm going to show you what each of those icons mean. So this just shows you're in regular camera mode. If you were in the movie mode, it would change to like a movie camera. This shows the flash is set to force off. Maybe I'm in a museum and I don't want it to go on. This is the exposure average I talked to you about. This is the focus box. It will turn green when it's focused after you half press the shutter button. It's always in the center in this camera. This is how much time you have left to record. 3 hours and 41 minutes on the card based on 1080p 60, the best quality. You see, you get a lot of record time. Here I have almost 4,800 pictures more that I can shoot based on a 13 megapixel picture size. This shows the filter I'm in. That stands for normal. I don't have any filters engaged. SD card is in properly. It's recording to the SD card. And this is the battery indicator. Again, this one is very important because, as I said, if you run out of battery and you don't have a USB charger with you, you're done shooting for the day. So try to make sure to always have your battery fully charged before you go out. I want to show you one other thing. When you're zooming, this graph shows you how far in you are, 2 times, 3 times. Again, don't zoom too much with this. If the display is inactive for a while, it will go to sleep and you see that light flashing. You don't have to turn the camera on and off. Just half press the shutter button and it'll wake it up, just so you're aware of this little feature. Now that little lightning bolt on the right of the wheel is the flash settings. There are 3 settings. It is either always on, auto, where you're leaving it up to the camera, or always off. I don't like leaving it on auto because then the camera determines whether you want it on or off, and sometimes you want it to fire. So have it either on force flash on or force flash off. Like sometimes in a museum you can't have it on. On the left, you'll see a flower, and that is macro. That stands for close focusing. You can get really close to the lens with this camera, which is nice for shooting flowers, for shooting insects, or whatever else you may want to shoot, like this Halloween decoration I got really close to. The bottom of the wheel is a 2-function item. It's either a self-timer when you're in the camera mode, and you can set it for either 2 or 10 seconds if you need a lot of time to get into the group, or when you're playing back your pictures, it's a delete button. So that arrow gets you into the playback mode to play back your pictures in your camera. And then when you hit that garbage can now, you'll be able to delete one picture at a time. Now also, when you're in the playback mode and it's a movie there, you'll see that little arrow. You press set and it'll start playing back your movie in the camera with sound. And you can change the volume. And let's say you're in a library or a bookstore in a loud place by hitting up on the wheel and then up and down for the volume. It was a very short movie, so that's why it reverted back. But by going up and down, you can change the volume. You can also fast forward and rewind by going left to right. Now you can easily watch your photos back on your camera, and you can zoom into them by using the T and W button along with the rear wheel to move around. So if you zoomed up and then you move left or right, you can sort of focus in and zone in on a certain part of the picture. Now, if you repeatedly hit the W button, you'll get into like a grid of all your pictures, which makes it easier to find than having to go back one at a time. So if you're looking for a certain photo, it's a lot easier doing it this way. Hitting the set button will get you right into that particular picture. Once you have the picture selected, by hitting the menu, you can either delete it or you can protect it, which means you can't erase it. You could rotate it if it was in the wrong orientation too. Now, just a little trick, if your camera is off, and let's just say you don't want to take pictures, but you don't want to just watch your pictures back, just keep your finger on that play button for a couple of seconds, and the camera will start up. You don't have to press the power button, and it'll go into playback mode, and you can start reviewing your pictures that way. It's a nice little trick. This way you don't have to press the power button and then the play button. Now, of course, you're not going to want to watch your pictures only on the screen. This is just to give you an indication of what you shot. You're going to take the card out and watch it in your computer. But let's say you want to transfer these pictures to your phone, to share it with friends and family. Now, unfortunately, this camera does not have Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or any of those wireless features. So what you have to get, and it's not expensive, is you have to get a micro SD card adapter which goes into your phone. So depending on the kind of phone you have, if it has a lightning port or USB-C port, just make sure you get the right adapter. So now that you know how to use the C1 like a pro, go out and use it and have some fun with it. Play around with the filters to get some cool results. And you'll be surprised, even in low light, I found that the camera did pretty well. Just try to hold it steady. Again, it's not a professional camera, but it does well in all different types of lighting conditions, as you can see here. If there's anything I may have missed here, or you have any specific questions about the camera that I didn't cover, be sure to shoot me a comment and I'll do my best to get back to you. I do have full reviews on the other Kodak cameras. Thanks for watching and making it to the end. See you in the next video.